Hi everyone, welcome to the Bad Vibes Club. Nice to have you here. Today's episode is with Joey Holder. Super interesting conversation with Joey. Joey kind of came in about February or March, just before she was part of a group show at 17 Gallery in London. And she kind of came in, even though she wasn't feeling too well, she had a bit of a cold. And we had a really interesting conversation about the kind of recurrent themes in her work. She's got a show on at the moment in Maastricht in the Netherlands, or she's part of a show called Digital Dilemma, the Architecture of Trust. Upcoming stuff, she's doing the Playco Summit in Zagreb at the end of June. And on the 19th of July, she is presenting at the summer school at King's College as part of the Birthrights collection on AI and the simulation of birth. Exciting Bad Vibes Club news. I got a residency at Kingsgate Sculpture Workshops, which is in Hampstead, and that's from February to September in 2020. So the Bad Vibes reading groups will be starting up again around then, and they're going to kind of follow the theme of my residency, which is going to be ugliness. I'm also in residence at ArtLink in Ireland over August, so I'll be holding reading groups and events there. And probably until February, these podcasts might become a little bit more sporadic, as I'll be kind of planning next year's work and kind of saving up recordings for next year rather than putting them out as and when. My conversation with Joey began with us talking about a project that has been touring for the last 2 years or so. It's called Ad Credo, the Deep Belief Network, and it dealt with a lot of themes of conspiracy and subjective knowledge and maybe contemporary ideas of fake news in politics and in culture. Do you feel like you're done with that project, or do you feel? I
don't feel like I'm done with it. I feel like there's so much work that could be done with it still, and it could be really expanded. But I guess I feel like maybe at the moment physically and mentally done with it, because I just need kind of space before I get fresh ideas and inspiration and get into some stuff again with it to kind of start it going again. But with a big project with these big monsters, I guess the other big project that I did, the Ophiux project at Wising, that was 2016, I think. That again was this kind of 2 years worth of research and work, and then you do it, and then it's this huge production, and then the work possibly tour and everything else. But then afterwards you're kind of a bit exhausted by it, but there's so much richness of that research that's still I don't know, I feel like I'm only just getting my teeth into, really. But
when a project ends, or when a project kind of comes to its conclusion in terms of exhibiting and stuff, are you already lined up with ideas, or are you
not at all.
Start from blank again then?
I wouldn't say it's starting from blank. I mean, I think that the projects all do have certain research strange interests. I mean, for example, with Ophiux at Wising, it was about the kind of datafication of human beings, but in a kind of more medical, genetic way, and how even our biology, our DNA is kind of being turned into computer code, and then kind of measured and set against different people's data sets. So I mean, and I felt with Ad Credo as well, it is about the kind of again about how our data is used, but in a very different way, I guess, how our data is used to then manipulate what people believe, or in social media networks perhaps, or in online realms. So I mean, I think the projects are related, but I think it takes time after each project to then, I don't know, start getting into something, gathering research, and then building up a kind of idea of what I'm gonna do with that. I mean, with a Credo, you don't get I didn't get this kind of moment where I was oh, that's it, that's what I'm going to do. And then, it's more kind of pooling lots of research together, and then that's slowly kind of formulating a thing. I mean, I kind of actually also said that because I created these kind of fictional companies with both of those projects as well. Sure. So Ad Credo was this kind of fictional company with its own website and kind of mission statement. like the same with Ophiux as well. It had like the same kind of thing, but it was a pharmaceutical company. And like in the kind of narrative of the Ad Credo show as well, it was within the company website that it was a partner, that it had like a partnership with Ophiux, with this big kind of pharmaceutical company as well, and had their logo and stuff. So, you know, the idea of the world being kind of ruled by like these, whether I believe that or not, I don't know. Well, I mean, you know, obviously, like big corporation, there are massive corporations that do own a lot of and control a lot of stuff in the world, but, you know, whether they do run things completely might be a bit conspiratorial.
No, but it's interesting because it's like, it was really satisfying to see its partner organisation is Ophiux. It doesn't really matter if we think about it as a believable conspiracy. It's much more aesthetically kind of satisfying to think that these worlds are connected somehow. I was going to ask about that because the aesthetic I got from Ophiux and from, but mostly from Ad Credo and the different versions that I saw, was one of kind of doom.
Yeah.
Like, literally, in the Derby version of Ad Credo, like the video game Doom, like, or Quake or something.
Oh, literally like Doom, not as in Doom as in like...
no, the affect of Doom, but then I thought about it and was like, actually it reminds me quite a lot of playing Quake or Doom when I was a kid. With the almost like stage set mountainous or volcanic landscapes. But then also the feeling of Doom that comes from a feeling of total conspiracy and paranoia, that the world was run by these companies. So it's like by the by whether you as a researcher or a thinker like believe in the conspiratorial nature of, I don't know, big pharma and data processing and things collaborating on some kind of, I don't know, international power grab or something.
Yeah.
Because it just works much better for the work if it's presented as such. I don't know.
So if it's presented as like...
as though like everything is conspiring against the viewer or the person trying to uncover these truths. There's something really horrific about that idea, and then there's something really satisfying about feeling it when you walk into those installations.
Well, I think that the way that so much of our lives obviously are spent like surfing the net and like the whole way that the internet is constructed and the way that we process information and connect one maybe quite disparate thing with another, because the way that we kind of like go through information these days. So you can completely understand why people would kind of like connect these kind of grand conspiracy narratives, theories like together in this way, and you know, believe that because of the way that we're kind of fed information, I guess.
Do you have a kind of conspiracy theorist hidden inside you that's like enjoys all these things?
I always just say I don't know like what I believe really, like, or like what I am. I mean, I think that many things are possible in the world, and I think that there's like a limit to there's definitely like a limit to what we can do as human beings, and a limit to our knowledge and our understanding of the world. And no matter how amazing computers become, or that there's always going to be this kind of limit to what we can kind of understand or perceive about the world. So I mean, I'm kind of interested in what we can't perceive, I guess, or like what's kind of like beyond that. And I mean, I guess it's kind of like fun to kind of like to research these things that, you know, might include like alien kind of like civilizations, or these conspiracies about like ancient civilizations that used to run the world or something like that. So but I mean, lots of things that, you know, we just can't ever necessarily know. Or it could be like, you know, thinking about our limits to understanding the natural world as well, and the very limited understanding we have of that. I mean, even the microscopic world, the bacterial world, or something that's like lives on us, that's very close to us, is this kind of like hidden other world almost.
It's interesting how the same feeling can be approached looking at the work about insect reproductive organs and stuff. The same feeling of like horror and fascination is in that, you know, the natural world that is material and it's kind of made present to us through science, and for me, like, is similar to the horror I feel at the idea of, I don't know, hidden, creepy scientific activity that I'm never going to know about. Do you know what I mean? There's a kind of relationship between the horror of a world like exposed to us, and then the horror of a hidden world that might be in power or have more power than we.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then also like, as you said, there's conspiracy theories that are kind of like fun or something, like the alien race.
Maybe I shouldn't like say fun. Like, I mean,
No,
people like. I mean, and I probably believe this stuff as well. I don't know, you know, like. But...
Or maybe a better example is I never quite actually found out, but you know the work you did for the photographers gallery.
Oh yeah.
What's the conspiracy theory it's based on? That's based on.
That isn't actually a conspiracy theory at all. Okay. So I mean, it's weird. It's not weird, but I mean, I think a lot of my work usually looks at things that are, I'm going to say, true. But like things that are based on things that really happened, let's say, or like real scientific research.
Okay.
I mean, like Ed Credo, I mean, all of the things within, most of the things, 95% of the things, like, within that, they weren't constructed. They were, like, well, I mean, they were really what people were saying. They wasn't changed at all. They wasn't, like, you know, this other narrative or something. But, yeah, the Photographers Gallery one seems like a conspiratorial thing, but it was a film about sharks, and it started off like I was watching Jaws, like, for about the millionth time over Christmas, and I saw, like, when Roy Schneider, the hero's on the boat, like, during one of the end scenes when he's on his own and it's all pitch black at night time, and the shark's, like, out there somewhere. There's a kind of, like, shooting star that goes past his head, and I was like, oh shit, that's strange, like I've never seen that before. And then I started to do some research about shooting stars in Spielberg's movie, and then apparently, like, he puts shooting stars as post-production into all of his films. But apparently, like, according to some internet people, that was a real shooting star. But then his ego, he couldn't handle it or something because the shooting star was already there. So he had to put another one in post-production, like, afterwards. So there's actually two. So apparently one of them is real. Anyway, I'd been asked by the Photographers Gallery to make a piece of work, and I knew that it was part of their, like, conspiracy season they was doing. And I knew that the exhibition that they have on was like an archive of somebody's UFO collection of like photographs and videos and stuff of this like one guy. I don't know, I was just like, I've got to do something with this, because I don't know, it just seems to be kind of like this weird coincidence that it fits that there was this seeing this UFO in Jaws, and I guess my interest in like strange nature, I guess, and deep sea stuff, and maybe thinking about like deep sea kind of mysteries and conspiracies, and thinking that we don't know so much about the deep ocean, like we know less about it than we know about outer space. And I was just thinking there must be something. So I started to do more research about sharks in particular, and then I just came across this this research that was done on sharks by scientists. I think it was around 2010. It was funded by, now this sounds like completely far-fetched, like something out of James Bond or something, but it was funded by the US military, and they was implanting things into like neurotransmitters or something into sharks' brains to try and get like sharks to act as like spies basically for the military, and like see if they could like remotely guide the sharks to use them as kind of like spying kind of like machines or something. So that was what the film was kind of about.
Your two great loves meet, like crazy science stuff, and then like weird ancient creatures of the deep.
It was really strange to kind of go deeper into that piece of research, because also there was loads of stuff that happened around that piece of research, because you remember then when there was shark attacks in Sharm el Sheikh in Egypt, I think it was, or one of the main kind of like tourist resorts in Egypt. There was like 4 fatalities, like shark attacks over like a few days or something. And this was like really, you know, unheard of. Like it's really rare for sharks to attack, let alone to be like 4 people killed in like over a matter of days. And that happened a few years later after this scientific research and done these papers were published. And basically like Egypt accused Israel of having remotely operated sharks that were that they'd sent in to like sabotage their tourist industry
Wow,
or something
that's
like that.
amazing.
So like this whole, and that was like on the TV, I think, in the news, and of course like it wasn't true. Like I don't think the scientists ever managed to like remotely operate the sharks anyway. But yeah, I mean relationships with Egypt and Israel, well, historically haven't been that good, but they're not that good anyway. So, but they think it was like due to this kind of religious ceremony. I think it was like, I don't know if it was Ramadan or what, but they'd finished like a feast or something, and there was like chucking like animal carcasses like overboard into the sea, which they think that attracted the sharks.
I guess,
but just thinking about this weird kind of narrative that then like unfolds because of like that happening, you know, and how that can kind of, I don't know, cause tensions politically and have these kind of waves that sort of...
already existing prejudices can suddenly kind of be fueled by, I don't know, new science or a crazy factoid that someone hears. It feeds into their story. Kind of bitter feuds or whatever it is.
And maybe that's kind of very related to the work, to the Ad Credo work, this kind of like... just being really scared of the landscape that can now exist, where that can kind of like snowball into something like quite horrific and politically horrible or something.
Because I think even in the text around Ad Credo somewhere, or maybe in one of the interviews, you say that these kind of Cambridge Analytica, the real company that I guess Ad Credo was inspired by, they weren't the first people to do this kind of very individual targeting. Barack Obama had done it in his successful presidential
I mean,
elections.
there's also thousands of these companies that exist.
But the terrifying thing was that they connected to otherwise unconnected massive events. For us as British people, Brexit, and then for the world, Donald Trump's election, which maybe had felt like manifestations of similar feelings, but they hadn't felt like they were connected, literally connected. And then suddenly there was this shadowy company. Who was kind of taking...
And I don't think it's like that, you know, even that I think is a very simple narrative and probably wasn't like, you know, it's probably lots of other factors, but, you know, it kind of like joins all the dots perfectly, doesn't it? And it's like,
that's
and it's
it.
like easy to kind of like go, oh, they're the ones that like, I don't know, to put the blame on something as well. People want to be able to put the blame on something and get justice or something, like... But often it's a very limited, simple narrative, and it's a lot
Cambridge
more...
Analytica have closed down now, I think. And of course, that hasn't solved any problems at all. But it's the kind of power has like just turned into mist and gone somewhere else.
I like that, turned into mist.
But that's what's interesting about, I guess, the way I think about conspiracy...
As mist.
As mist. That's a new... Well, just that if you answer the questions that some of these conspiracies ask, not everything. There are real conspiracies. I'm not saying that things are just as they appear or something, but often if the questions were answered, they wouldn't solve the problems, or they wouldn't kind of make things right. Because power would kind of dissolve and go elsewhere. Or something. But to come back to it as an artistic process, I guess what's interesting is that lots of people follow these things, and lots of people are interested in these strange stories of taking the Cambridge Analytica thing. It was a massive news story. But what's the moment where you think, oh, I could kind of do something with this. I could do something with this as an artist, as someone who makes, you know, videos and installations and digital images and stuff.
I mean, I never thought I would make work about this kind of thing, to be honest. And I mean, my work in the past, I guess, has been related to this stuff, but I didn't think... I mean, I guess I'd never made work before about human relations or human politics as much. But, I mean, around 2016, when all this kind of, like, shit hit the fan, and, I mean, also being kind of involved and mixed up in the conversation, which was also like happening like in the art world, like at the time with LD50 gallery and so forth. And
do you want to explain what that was for people who don't know?
So LD50 was a gallery in Dalston which staged a show and a series of talks as well, which the show had some really racist like tweets that like were printed out of like from like alt-right accounts, and then they staged a series of talks as well which had people like Nick Land and Brett Stevens, and was Brett Stevens in it? Actually, I don't know. Actually, I can't say. But anyway, like a kind of like a whole load of motherfuckers. And like I'd had a show there previously, and I mean I guess like it felt at the time very difficult to talk about that stuff or talk to people about different political viewpoints. I guess it felt like that people were becoming very, I mean we've all heard about these terms now, you know, atomization on social media, and how people were kind of like forming different camps that were very kind of separate, and it felt like, you know, it felt like increasingly difficult to like talk to people, I guess, like about this kind of stuff without it being this kind of like very binary argument.
Yeah.
And having a show there before, and then the gallery, like, because after the show that I had, they staged this other show, and then they held these group of talks, and then there was this big outcry to shut the gallery down. There was a big campaign, and then that went all over the art press as well as like world press. I mean, it was on
crazily
like
kind of viral.
Yeah, it was on Al Jazeera. It was in the New York Times, I think. You know, it went worldwide. So I was just, and at that time, I was really, you know, like felt really affected and felt really, even though, you know, I wasn't directly, I'd had a show there, but I felt, you know, I still felt like very...
You weren't in the show that was...
Yeah, no, I wasn't in the show, yeah. But I felt very scared for what was going on in the world at that point, and politically, and those events that were happening, you know, like that was unfolding at the gallery as well. Yeah. I was like, fuck, like the world has, you know, like is becoming a very, what's the word, you know, polarised landscape, and I felt very scared of like the way that social media conversations were happening around these topics as well. There was no real conversation. It was just people kind of like trying to shut people down and, you know, just being like, you're wrong. And so I think that's really what made me want to kind of think about like making the work. I mean, but, you know, as a way of like trying to understand and get to the, I mean, I'll never get to the bottom of this kind of stuff, but, you know, to kind of like work through some of this stuff, right? You know, I didn't want to kind of like make a, you know, mind you, maybe I was going to say I don't really want to make a spectacle or something of it, but then like the Ad Credo installation probably was this kind of like...
It's spectacular. Yeah.
But I mean, you know, like obviously we had, I mean, you know, You With Bad Vibes Club came in, and we had lots of like discussion groups around these topics, and I had a kind of like publishing platform that went alongside the project as well, and commissioned some writers to think about and to kind of work through this stuff. So yeah, I mean, I guess it was just trying to think about it and bring people together to talk about it, you know, rather than you know, what I'd kind of like witnessed happening on social media, and try and think through these things, and rather than, but that was the kind of like aim, rather than to kind of, I don't know, make an artwork, as it were. It felt like, you know, the work just really needed to be done, if that makes sense.
No, it's interesting. What's useful about doing art about something rather than talking directly about it is that it kind of doesn't immediately ask for your response. It asks you to kind of step into a world which isn't going to be completely ethically correct or just or something. Yeah. But you're allowed to step out of it as well. So your installation was, especially at Derby, was like overwhelming and quite like hard to be in, but then it's also not asking you to immediately respond and make a judgment on what's happening. And then of course you had the events program, which was, we ran a reading group, and then you had kind of various reading groups and discussion groups happening, right? Yeah. So that opened up another space, which was, I guess, hopefully not judgmental, and not, even if it was just the work on its own, there's something immediately satisfying not to be asked your opinion, or not to be asked like immediately to pick a side or something.
Yeah. I mean, in the way the work turned out, I guess there was lots of, I mean, in the work there's lots of these kind of like CGI talking heads of different political figures or financial figures. So there's Trump, there's Putin, there's Peter Thiel, there's aliens, and there's Kanye West. I always say that wrong. It's not Kanye. Is
it not?
I thought everybody always says it. Everybody always says that. I say it. Well, can't. I don't know.
I say Kanye. Is it Kanye?
Kanye, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. But he just said some crazy shit about slavery or something at that point. Like, he was making odd pronouncements.
Yeah. But yeah, it was all these kind of like fragmented voices, I guess, from things that they'd said from all different sides. And yeah, I guess it was just kind of presenting what these people had said, but not really, I'm not really, taking sides or something. Just kind of being like, this is all the shit that's out there.
I want to ask about, you mentioned in one of the interviews that you did like you were a diving instructor for a while. How long did you do that?
It's really funny because
do people always ask you about that?
Well, no, like every time, like I think people when they read that interview, but it's on like the first line or something. I think it was an AQMP, but I think I often misread it as driving instructor. So I always that's why I always laugh. And my dad was a driving instructor as well.
Oh, sweet. So you got varied experience.
But yeah, I did that in my mid-20s. So I did my BA Kingston, and then I lived in London for a few years afterwards, and then I really wanted to escape London, and I was in a bit of a bad place. I was like, just generally partying too much and not doing that much with my life. And I just ended up going on holiday with my parents for a week to Turkey, and my parents' friend was with them and he wanted to go scuba diving. And we went out, and then the guy on the boat said, do you want to do your open water course, which is like the first course scuba diving. And then, to cut a long story short, I didn't have any money really, but he ended up giving it to me for quite cheap. And then afterwards he just said, do you want a job?
Oh, amazing.
And I was like, that's it. That's my escape from London. So but it was a really hard job actually, in the end, because I was he wasn't a very nice boss, and I was basically his slave for 6 months that I was working there for this first season. And
were you diving every day?
Yeah, I mean sometimes 12 dives a day.
Fuck.
And I'd work 14 hours a day every day for 6 months. I think I got 2 days off, and I wasn't supposed to have those 2 days off.
How much per?
And I got
day?
£100 a month to work, and
food and board or something?
I had to pay for my board in the end, and I got fed when I was on the boat, but that was only lunch. So, but I think I just survived off that because I didn't really have any other money. But it was really hard. It was like being in the bloody army. I think it's worse than being in the army. But also good to spend so much time underwater.
How much time a day do you think you're underwater then?
I don't know, it depends, because high season there's obviously more tourists and more people to take diving. I mean, but then in low season there was only 2 dives a day.
Right, okay.
And it depends on also how good the people are at diving, because if you dive, if you're good at it, then you just conserve. You're just more chilled out, and you conserve more air, so you can be underwater for longer. But when you start off, you're a bit panicky, and you just and you just use up all your air really quickly. So it depends who you're diving with as well.
So you had a kind of semi-aquatic life for a small amount of time. So you just did it for one summer?
It was quite sad actually, because I love the underwater world, and it would have been nice to be introduced to that and kind of been able to look around a bit underwater anymore. But because I learnt to dive, and then I was doing it as a job, and it was really quite hardcore, and it would just be looking after people. So I couldn't really I'd always be looking at the people that I was diving with, obviously, like thinking about like if they was all right, how much air they've got, like where I'm going, like, and all of this stuff. So didn't really get. And whenever I dive now, it's like I always think that I need to like be in control of like the whole group, and like when you know, wondering what they're doing, and I'm just like, just chill the fuck out. You can just look around and like look at a fish.
I like the idea of diving. I've done like a bit of snorkeling and stuff, and it's just nice feeling like you're in a world with different rules or something.
Yeah. It's mad actually, like one of the maddest things is like how the fish really don't, or any of the creatures, they really don't give a crap that you're down there. Like they don't kind of get scared or like acknowledge that you're even there. And I always think that because there's so much weird shit down there, they must have seen, like, I know this is a stupid thing to think, how they must have seen anything. So, oh yeah, whatever, this weird, strangely shaped human game, that's nothing kind of thing. But I always just think it's so weird that they don't, you know, it just like life goes on down there, and it's like they don't, you know, they don't care that you're there.
They notice their predators on a much more specific level.
Yeah, maybe.
They know which fish are the ones to watch out for, and we just don't have any of those.
I did have this mad thing with a clownfish once of like, it came out, like, I mean, clownfish are like extremely territorial, you know, and I mean, a lot of marine fish are, but I was nowhere near it, and it like came out of its anemone thing and like sort of like squared up to me. And then like grabbed hold of like so I had some like threads that were coming off the sleeve of my scuba diving suit, my wetsuit, and it just like grabbed hold of these threads and started to go like this, like a dog, like trying to like, and I was just like, that's so weird. Like, I mean, like, you know, that's not going to do anything to me. Like, you're hardly like threatening me. But
my favourite GIF of recent times, it might be an old, I don't know how old it is the one of a dolphin throwing an octopus in like the face of someone who's canoeing around looking at the dolphins. It's really good. Oh, it's amazing. It's really funny because it's so unexpected, but it's also really cruel. Like there's this idea of dolphins of being very intelligent and playing a lot. But this isn't just playing. This is like, I'm going to pick something up that I know you think is horrible and then throw it at your face. I think it's really good.
And it like lands on the...
Yeah, it just like smacks the guy in the face, and the guy's like, what the fuck was that? And the nice thing about GIFs is obviously you can kind of watch them over and over again, and like then this story kind of, I don't know, this story developed in my mind of this dolphin just being like, fuck off to all these people coming to
There is a kind of... Do you think that there's a correlation between intelligent beings in some form of intelligence and cruelty?
I don't. Maybe in mammals, and dolphins are mammals. I wonder if octopuses, who, you know, like in the recent scientific literature, or scientific literature for years, are understood as having a very different kind of intelligence, and one that we can't really fathom or understand. Yeah, probably just has totally different features as it develops. But yeah, I wouldn't be. It would definitely fit in with my worldview of things, as if like mammals, as they became more intelligent, had the capacity for cruelty.
Yeah. I've got a funny story about octopuses though.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, a octopus, when I was diving as well, I was going along, so you often dive like along a wall, and then you'll kind of, follow the wall like into the kind of bay. And I was leading this dive, like going along this wall, and the divers are behind me, and you know, quite often you'll like try to like point things out on the dive and show them cool stuff, and I saw an octopus, but it went inside, like it gone into this hole, into this wall, and I put my hand in like to try and like grab it to get it out, but it grabbed hold of my hand and like my arm, and that was insane. Like they are so strong, like it's like a rock. It's like your hand is like encased and it's not gonna move. So it was kind of like a cartoon. I like put my fins like either side, and then I was just like pulling like as hard as I could, like to try and get this octopus to let go. And like all the other divers were like going, and I was just like, fuck, like they're my responsibility as well. I was just like, come back, you know, like I can't get my hand out. But eventually like it let go. But yeah, if it
If I hadn't let go,
if I hadn't let go, just be still bloody down there.
That's amazing. When I think about octopuses and the way that their intelligence might manifest, that inspires a kind of horror and dread, but also something like the sublime or whatever that feeling is of like awe-inspiring. And I don't know, it's interesting that these different experiences can have the same, I don't know, affective or emotional kind of response.
Yeah. Like dolphins as well, like, after I'd done this season working as a diving instructor, I then did lots of dives in other places in the world, and I was always trying to go on dives to like look for, they call it the big stuff, so like sharks and dolphins and whatever else, and but I was always really unlucky. Like I never went on lots of shark dives, never saw any sharks in Thailand and stuff, and Malaysia. And I always remember being on this like one last dive. I was like this 3-week diving holiday in Thailand and Malaysia and hadn't seen anything. And I remember on the very last dive, we was just about to surface, and I heard like this sound, and it was like this sound was kind of like, I could never like describe what this was like, but it was like the sound was kind of like inside me or something, and like all around at the same time. And like, you know, when you hear whale songs or noises like recorded, it wasn't, you know, it wasn't anything like that. It wasn't something that I just could describe. It was like this kind of like high pitched kind of like, I don't know, like whistle or something. And I was just like, what the fuck is that? And then I looked like to the right, I think, and like I saw like this huge like pod of dolphins like in the distance, but they was way in the distance, and there was probably about, I don't know, like at least 100 of them or something. And I was like, fuck, they're there. And it was almost like, I know you kind of like anthropomorphize these things, but it was almost like they was kind of like saying to me, like, we're here, like, we're not going to come anywhere near you, but like, we're here, like, and yeah, that, you know, that's it, like, that's all you're getting. But this, I'll never ever forget that kind of like feeling of like this sound and this, I don't know, like almost being communicated to or something. And
yeah, but they're kind of communicating across a gap, because I think they kind of understand that we're different, whereas I guess maybe the smaller, like fish, maybe they're not even computing like what we are. Whereas dolphins understand, well, they have their own conception of what we are, which is really interesting, because we're never going to be able to know what they think of us or something. So that's why I just loved it when this gif of this dolphin, he's just like, this is what we think of you. We're going to show you.
Hard year last year, like personally, like for other stuff, like my dad's really sick, and some other stuff happened, and but yeah, I did this medical trial that I thought was like the end of last year, and then I was just going to chill out for Christmas, and did this medical trial, and they got me to take a drug that they give to ex-addicts that are coming off opiates, so mainly heroin, and the drug's meant to like lower your blood pressure and I guess like stop you from getting the shakes and like being sick and stuff like that. And I think they was playing about with the dosage of it, because currently like I think they have to give like 5 or 6 tablets or something per day to people. But yeah, to cut a long story short, like there was a bit of a fuck up with the paperwork, and we had to fast for like 12 hours before, but then we couldn't take the drug after the fasting period, so we had to fast for even longer. So we hadn't eaten, and then we took this drug that lowered our blood pressure anyway, and yeah, I like fainted, like passed out, like hit like 2 things on the way down, and like yeah, basically like woke up to a freaking crash team. Yeah,
oh my God.
So that freaked me the fuck out. Yeah, and I've never like fainted before, so I just kind of remember trying to get up to go to the toilet and like calling the nurse, and then like the world just kind of going shrinking to a closing in on me, and then it wasn't good.
I was going to ask, like, why were you standing up when they get like, But of course, yeah, if you were getting up to get help.
Yeah, it was just like, I mean, we were supposed to, there was all manner of fuck-ups actually, because we were supposed to like lay down and not move like off this bed unless we was like being, unless somebody was kind of escorting us and helping us. Because of the drug, but then they'd said, "Oh, it's okay if you feel okay, like it's okay to like get yourself up to go to the toilet or whatever." But I don't think that they should have really said that because it was in the paper, you know, like it was in the paperwork. So I think it was like, you know, so me trying to get up because I felt all right and then face planting the floor. But yeah, like I had a big black eye and like my jaw was a bit fucked and yeah, so it's a bit shit.
Why did you do it? Was it just like, oh, this seems like an easy job for some money?
I needed the money. Yeah. I really needed the money, but it kind of paid off in the end because, like, obviously, like, yeah, I didn't want to take it again, and I was meant to go back like 5 more times. To have like 2 weeks off and then go back and then take it again and then spend more days in there. But because I'd fainted, I didn't want to carry on and take it again. But they just paid me the whole study. So actually it was quite like...
It wasn't some kind of like, what's the word, method research where you like going into science. It was just for the money.
Well, I mean, I did think about it in terms of my artwork and the stuff that I'd done before, and I was thinking of like maybe doing some secret filming and stuff in there. And I mean, it was quite mad, like this kind of really measured thing as well. Like you constantly like hooked up to the ECG machine and got these, I don't know what you call them, those kind of like pads all over your body. Sure. And for the first like 2 days that it was in there, they're like taking blood like every hour and stuff as well. So you're constantly having needles being put into you, and I don't know, there's this constant clocks everywhere, and it's like, I don't know, I'm quite interested in that, you know, like them constantly like monitoring the body and like to figure out like what's happening.
Did it look anything like your Ophiux installation?
No.
I wonder if it's interesting that there's an aesthetic that's like scientific. So I'm imagining like lots of white and lots of
But
then they also have to like care for all these human bodies that might do unexpected things and measure them and stuff, and there's a lot of mess that comes with that. So it can't be as clean as our kind of as the sci-fi imaginary of like medicine.
I mean, you know, medicine is generally as clean as they can make it, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like in those. But yeah, I'm very interested in that as well, like how death and all of the mess is hidden from us. And yeah, even when you're in hospital, I guess it's if you were sick or if you were about to die, it's all kind of like it's all cleaned up. Or even like if your family went to see a loved one or something, it's behind these kind of closed doors, and we don't kind of talk about sickness or grief or that much, apart from with our close friends and family and stuff. But yeah.
Have you heard of death cafes? Have you heard of that phrase before? I think there's one in London, or maybe a few in London. I don't know why they're called that, and I don't know where they came from, because I haven't Googled it for a while, but I was talking to someone about it the other week. And they're just meetups where people, it's almost like a open discussion group about death, but they're regular.
Yeah.
So people can come along and just listen, or people can come along and kind of contribute. And it might be philosophical or it might be more personal. And it's, kind of addressing this idea that death happens behind closed doors or in kind of cleaned, sealed off spaces.
You say that they're in...
I think there's one in London,
There's one,
If you like Google Death Cafe London, I'm sure it would come up. But I don't know when
that's what it's actually called.
Yeah, I don't know why they're called death cafes. I assume like maybe it happened in a cafe at first and then now that's taken on the name. But it is interesting because I think that a lot of conversations, and even, you know, what we talked about earlier, kind of ethics of medicine, a lot of those conversations, or a lot of the laws or ways that we do things are assumed to pass some kind of objective place of science, or maybe from like some hidden power, but they're not. They're kind of decided in the moment, often by people faced with quite complex situations. Like a messy human body that's in the process of dying, and then a family that wants to be near that body. You know, all this stuff like happens through people, and not just through a kind of rule-based power system or something.
No, I think it's so important that to talk about it and address it, and I mean, I guess like even that human contact of talking about, I mean, it sounds obvious, but like can help so much as well. And I think like that I mean, if you are sick as well, you want somebody to be able to talk to, or those close, like, kind of family relationships. I mean, I know I only fainted, but, like, you know, I guess when I woke up, I remember what I really remember and what really helped is, like, somebody there saying that, you know, it's okay and, like, this is where you are, and being really nice to me. But that's what's important, and that's what helps you, like, get better, rather than, I don't know, all of the that's as important as, maybe more important than all the machines or something as well.
Really.
Yeah.
A few times, like, in the press of stuff, religion is mentioned. And I wondered if you have any, like, kind of real life experience or background in religion. Like, did you have a religious upbringing or anything? I just because it's so interesting to think about conspiracy, or not just conspiracy, but many kinds of belief as having an element of faith in them. And that definitely is something that, like, links all of the work that I've seen of yours.
Yeah.
Do you have any kind of background in that?
No, I mean, when I was living in... So when I was a scuba diving instructor, it was in Turkey, and then I lived in Turkey, like, for about 7 years, like, back and forth, because my ex-husband was Turkish, so yeah, maybe that's something to mention. So I mean, but yeah, broadly, like, I think about religion and belief a lot. I mean, I guess, like, when I was living in Turkey, I used to think about it a lot in terms of, like, how, like, religion... I mean, Turkey is, it's very different in the different places in Turkey where you are. And in Istanbul, it's like, you know, one person can be very religious, and then another person can be completely, like, not religious. And, and some people are very, like, westernized there, or some people are, like... religious, traditional, but it goes, like, the whole kind of spectrum. But I think I thought a lot when I was, like, living there about, like, how faith, religion, like, maybe not just religion, like, a sense of that can really, like, bring people together, like, as a community, and, like, how, like, maybe we've lost a lot of that in a lot of parts of the Western world. Like, we don't come together really, like, as you know, we don't really even eat together as families really that much anymore. Like, well, I'm generalizing, but you know, there isn't, like, you know, the time where you'll sit down all together, like, on a Sunday as a family or as, like, a friendship group or something, and share that. And I think that those kind of religious communities can be, like, extremely important, like, for society as well. But I guess I think that, like, with the Ad Credo work and a lot of the kind of, like, conspiracy narratives that were going through that, I think that humans do want to kind of, like, believe in something. I think it's part of our nature to believe in something that's kind of bigger than us, whether that be, like, a kind of a god, or, like, my belief in some, you know, like, other kind of race or something. I think people want to believe that there's something, like, more powerful than us that's controlling us. So that also maybe brings meaning to people's lives, or gives them some kind of comfort or something of not being alone in the world, or, like, the responsibilities all on them or something. Like, I think if you, like, strongly believe in something else, then it kind of, like, gives you an easier life in certain respects. So I mean, I sometimes, like, really wish that I was really religious or something, you know, that
I guess there's
that it wouldn't be, like, so, like, I don't know, like, meaningless life or something like that, you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, there's a few elements to religion. There's the theology element, like the official kind of books or teachings of each religion, and then there's the ritualistic aspects. And I think what the community building part is often the ritual stuff. So if you have to pray a few times a day, and then go to mosque, or if you go to church on Sunday, you keep coming back together with the same people, and if those people help and support each other, then you inevitably get help and support from that community.
No, exactly.
And then I guess there's the other element, and what's interesting about religion is that I guess you can be as light or as heavy with the theological kind of aspects as you want. You might be a kind of, I'm just thinking of my parents, they're Christian, but they're very much like the, I don't know, like almost not hippie, but like very liberal kind of like, you know, we're not going to make too many rules out of this. But then you could be like, I'm just thinking of a, what's it called, Kabbalah or something? The kind of Jewish theological interest in like understanding the hidden meaning of the Torah by rendering it into like numbers or something, like a mystical kind of theology. You know, they're two very different ways of like interacting with similar texts that are kind of related or something. Yeah,
no, it's like totally right about the, I think it's interesting what you're saying about the ritualistic kind of aspects of that. I mean, recently, I don't know if you know, but I'm like started to run a small project space in Nottingham called Chaos Magic, and we've recently been doing like some kind of gatherings and workshops. And the first one we did of this series of workshops, like about a month ago, we did like a spellcasting workshop, spellcasting with intent, and I hadn't done anything like that before, like kind of like, and I just like really enjoyed the process of like being with people and reading together and using these different herbs and ingredients to make spells. But that, I don't know, that kind of like ritual of doing that thing together, I think is so, and it doesn't really matter what it is, like whether it's like eating together or a religious thing or making spells, or like as long as you're doing that kind of thing with, you know, some intention and some not doing it for collective good. I don't know, like, but you know, like this kind of like getting together, I think is so important, and I think it's something that I haven't had or something in my life for a while, and I'd like to kind of like do more of somehow.
I even think because the text me and Beth brought at Credo in Derby is called Paranoid Reading. It's by Eve Sedgwick, and it's about paranoia as a kind of mode of operating and how that dominates theory and how theory is written and read.
Yeah.
When I read the critique of that, where she's basically saying like, look, you can't keep reading theory and then believing that it's going to change everything. Because that's the thing, sometimes I read theory and I get that feeling of like, oh my God, like this changes everything. But then I've been doing a reading group for like 5 years now. Yeah. And I haven't changed the world or like solved any person.
But you might have changed people's minds a bit by being with them and by having those conversations, I think, and that is what's really important. Well, I don't know. For me, you're not just reading that thing in isolation without trying to have that conversation about what other people think of that and how that could change your mind or their.
But it made me think about the ritualistic aspects of it. So part of the reason I keep, or surely a big part of the reason I keep doing the reading groups, because those moments of coming to, just what you were saying, coming together, reading together, having shared purpose. Yeah. And then knowing that, you know, next month we'll do the same thing again. And knowing that a slightly different group will assemble, but will feel the same or something. Yeah. And that's, now actually what I take to other people when I do these reading groups is not we're going to learn about something. Yeah. Although we might learn about some things, but we're going to have this experience together, and it's going to feel kind of really good to like all be trying to achieve the same thing at the same time, because that's so rare these days, whatever. That's so rare to find in.
No, I think that shared experience is it's so important. It's so vital. I mean, and also starting the space in Nottingham with some recent graduates from Nottingham. It feels so good to kind of like be decentering this stuff away from my own bullshit and art practice, you know.
Like, so you and some other, I didn't know it was with other people.
Yeah, so it's like 5 recent graduates from Nottingham Trent Uni. So the onus is like that they run the space and I'm just there to kind of like help, give advice, facilitate, but the onus is that they will, you know, do everything. But it not to be. But that feels really nice, you know, to get together with those people, to meet regularly and to do that as well. It's not about putting on my own shit at them, like, trying to help other people or something.
Thanks so much to Joey for coming in to chat to me. Thanks so much to you for listening, and you will hear from me very soon. Goodbye.